Good morning. My name is Gavin Matthews. I'm a developer on the API Manager team, and this morning I'm going to give a demo of the upcoming features around API routing for 7.6. This feature is still under development, so some of the details may change. This is just to give an overview of how it currently is expected to work. So, for my setup, I have API Builder running as my backend, just to provide a backend that I can virtualize. It has two very simple APIs in it. Well, it has one API and two versions. The greeting API, it has a get method with API v1 greet, and it just takes a username as a header parameter, and it will return a hello username string. There is also a version 2 of this API, which has two methods, the greet and a farewell. The farewell returns goodbye username. Very similar, it has the username as a header parameter. And then just to make this a breaking change, I've also moved username from being a header parameter on the greet to being a query parameter, just to simulate a real world case where it is a breaking upgrade. That's my backend, and then on API Manager I've imported those backends just via the Swagger, and I've created front ends for those. This is all as the existing code base works. They're partitioned based on the resource path, so you can see version 1 of the URL has a v1 and version 2 of the URL has a v2. So the feature is to allow us to host these greeting APIs on a single base path, and to distinguish between them based on a query string parameter. So if we go into the settings, under API Manager settings, there's a new switch, enable query string version routing. So if I toggle this on, I'm enabling the new feature, whereby I can select between the front-end APIs based on a query string. And you can decide on the name of the query string. For convenience, I'm going to call it V. If I go back to the front-end URLs now, I can now go in. You'll see we have this new field, query string version routing. I'm going to call it, for comparison, I'll call it V1. It can be anything. It will be based on your requirements. So if it be the major version, you could prefix it with a V, you could leave it as 1. It's entirely up to you how to get set. And then I can go into the V2, and likewise I'm going to move this onto the same base path, but I'm going to give it a V2 for query string version and save that. So now I've got the two greet APIs, and they're both running on /API. If I bring in Postman just to send a request, so /API/greet. So if I invoke /API/greet with a username, I'll get back a not found. I need to specify the version I want to talk to. So if I talk to version 1, and let me just double check. Methods. Version 1 is expecting the username as a header string, so I will pass it as a header. So it should come back and say hello Bob, and it does. It says howdy Bob. If I go to version 2, it is expecting the username as a query string parameter, so world. Slightly different string, just so that we could distinguish between them and prove that it was working. So howdy from v2 world, or it could be Bob if we want. So that's just to illustrate that the routing is now based on not only on the path, but is also based on the new query string version. So we are now honoring that. In addition to it being part of the routing, also as in the catalog, we now include, dynamically update the methods so that they'll include this new parameter. So you can see v, the routing key parameter, string, query, required, and false. And if I download the Swagger, okay, sorry for the jump cut. I had some issues finding a terminal so I could open this in a editor. So I've downloaded the 2.0 Swagger. You can see the base path / API. We've got the greet method. I downloaded version 1 of the API, so it only has the one method. You can see the greet, the get, and also the two parameters. So the username, which was part of the backend API definition, and you can see the routing parameter comes in, and the Swagger we generate is setting the expected routing key, so it expects it to be just v1, and that's essentially thanks for your time. That is the new API routing features coming in 7.6. Good morning.